Hello and welcome. This is the Fintech UK 01. Just a bit of debrief in terms of what we're going to discuss here today. We'll be touching around areas that interest me as a fintech guy. Most importantly, I need to tell you that I have over 12 years experience in the fintech space that cut across payments, agency banking, mobile wallet collections, um, financial services, lending products, and DCB, digital career building services as well. So, what we're going to speak here today will be basically about the difference of fintech in the United Kingdom and fintech in Nairobi. Interestingly, I want to go straight and just give you some information that what I've seen around. This is based on my observation around here. Number one, when you go to the transport sector, that's what I've interacted with most. Transport sector. There are so many apps and way of customers making transactions or making payments with application that also help to know which bus is next, which train is next, and how you can actually navigate around. I think that is because of how beautiful the transportation network has been built here in the United Kingdom. So there's an app called TFL. I'm not advertising it, but I'm just mentioning them. TFL. There's a train line, and I'll just give you some example of my experience. So number one, on the TFL Go app, on that application, what is more interesting about it is that you're able to see minute by minute, hour by hour availability of buses, availability of trains, which trains to connect from what point. Most interestingly, as well, it's also embedded with the payment option in the app itself. It further gives you an option if you're using a train line and you want to pick up an Uber or Bolt, they're also embedded into this application. But more importantly, what I want to put as a difference is I'll give you a scenario. So typically, if you're in Nairobi and you want to take a bus, you have to go to a station, a specific area for that bus station. Yeah. You go to that place, there'll be what we call them makangas or conductors, you know, shouting around, making noise and telling you exactly which bus is where you need to take it from what location, and shouting the price of the bus. Maybe it can be £1, or or 20 Kenya shillings, or maybe 100 Kenya shillings, or maybe a quid or something, depending on how much it is. So something interestingly is that majority of these places that have actually taken a bus here in London, there are specific buses that takes you to specific areas, and the price is almost the same. Price is one. There's no difference in prices. You can take a bus, for example, from, let's say, Epping all the way to St. Albans, and that's they charge you around £2. So this £2, it doesn't matter if you'll be stopping in between the road and dropping to go to other locations. The price is the same. And what makes it more beautiful, there are no conductors, no people to make noise around and tell you, oh, this bus number 5 is supposed to be in, or the price is £20 or maybe £2 or whatever. You just go on the app, you know the next available bus. It's clearly labeled on those waiting bays or maybe the stations. You know which bus is supposed to take on. And when you enter the bus, the options of payment, which is very interesting, is you can either pay cash or you tap, or you pay in advance with a ticket, physical ticket. And in this case, when it comes to tapping of your payment, you have to use NFC enabled kind of card. These are cards that have an NFC feature that you can actually just tap and go. You don't necessarily have to input your PIN and everything, you just tap and go. And if you also have cash, you can give cash to the driver and he'll give you the change. Take your receipt and sit down. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And then The other more interesting thing is once you're inside the bus, you need to sit down or maybe you can stand depending on how many people are inside the bus. And then as the bus is moving, it's you who knows where you're supposed to stop from your bus, the next bus station. You can use the app or you can even use Google Maps. It's also very interesting that Google Maps works like clockwork here. It cannot lie to it. It gives you exact timings, you know. So you use Google Maps to show you your next stops, you know, your next stops, and immediately you get your stop. In Kenya, we shout, "Hey, shukisha hapo!" Like we bang the bus, or you tell the conductor, like, "Hey, drop it us in the next bus station." But here, you just press a bell, and the bus driver will know you need to drop off in the next bus stop, and will drop you off, and you're out from the bus. Something more impressing and more interesting as well. This is just from the interaction. Um, People say thank you when they're taking a bus, and they'll say goodbye to the bus driver. They'll say thank you when they've actually made a payment, which is something new. Because from where I'm coming from, when you're taking a bus or maybe you're in a train, we rarely say thank you and have a good something. No, and when you enter the bus is full of music. Music is playing from every corner. Maybe there's a TV also showing there. A lot of loud noises. In these buses, nothing like that. In fact, if you're also having your music, you turn it down. You can either use your earphones or you can use, um, you know, you can just be silent, or maybe you can just have a chat around, but not necessarily having your music being played from the back and someone else also playing another music. People are just silent in the bus, just observing where you're going. The other thing that I also wanted to mention about is that when they scan your card for transaction or for your card to be debited, what I've observed, the debit doesn't take effect immediately. They debit you the next day. I think this is how the process of settlement works. But ideally, your payment or the card issuer provider has already made a freeze, if I can put it that way, or maybe they've already marked that specific transaction for debit, and that needs to be paid off or settled to the merchant the next day, or maybe end of day settlement processes. The other more interesting thing that I've also noted with this bus or even the train themselves is that when you tap into a train station, from that train station point that you've actually tapped in, you tap out when you're exiting on the other side. So it's like counting your journey end to end from the beginning of your journey to the end of your journey. That makes it easier. Sorry about that. That makes it easier for you to be able to. That makes it easier for you you know, to be able to take count of how much your journey is going to be and how much you're going to be charged. Something more interesting as well is that I've also noted is that when it comes to payment of parking, there are several ways of making payment. You can either call, so there's a number, there's a paying gadget at the parking lot, so you can actually pay from it. And from that paying point, you use that gadget, you know, you use that gadget to be able to pay from that paying point. Then at the end of the day, you get your tickets. You can either pay in advance or actually paying when you're actually checking out from those locations. So why London Fintech and Nairobi Fintech a little bit different is that for these fintech spaces like London and Nairobi, is that there are different companies that drive this, and the company will actually dedicate themselves to collection of this payment. When I look at Nairobi specific or in Africa in general, is that in Nairobi, we use a lot of mobile money payment as compared to card transactions. There was some point in time where card payment or card transaction were actually introduced and it didn't go well. The thing flopped like serious. But now there's a lot of uptake. When you go into those, we call them matatus or maybe the buses in this case, you go inside those buses or matatu, you'll find there's a number. And from that number, as a passenger, you're supposed to pay into that number. And once you make that transaction, you show the conductor um, the transaction receipt. And the transaction receipt in this case is an SMS from the mobile money provider showing you exactly how much you've paid. So that's among the difference that you can have noted when it comes to payment spaces um, on transport sector. The other more interesting thing as well I've also noted is on groceries or maybe you're going shopping, retail payment that is. So in the retail space, what is more interesting or fascinating as well is when it comes to checkout, there's a lot of difference. There is the checkout section for people with baskets, the checkout section for people with trolleys. People with trolleys who have a lot of items, they go to specific section and they self checkout. We also have the same self checkout for people with baskets, small baskets. They can do self checkout as well. Very easy, seamless. You just go in, tap, you accept payment, you collect, you confirm how you want to pay. Either pay with cash or pay with a card, and off you go. Alternative mode of payment also still exists, where you can still go to the cashier, and give him all your goods that you want to buy. They will scan them for you, make your payments, and off you're out. So those are some of the fascinating things I've actually seen in London that are interesting. But still, uh, there is a lot of opportunities. If you ask me, opportunities to make this payment better, more sleeker, and easier. Because I don't understand the point of you know why there should not be mobile payments across this element as well. Because when I look at it keenly, there's still an element of having mobile transaction being acceptable, and it can be left out for the customers to choose which option of payment they should actually be able to, pay for. So this is more like a call for all those who are mobile money or telecom providers that they can actually look at that option. Because yes, you can have those plans where you're supposed to pay for your data and everything, which is fantastic. You get those checking from your account, which is good. But also, let's also give that facilitation to customers to choose if they really want to make their own transaction or own payment from mobile wallet. The reason why I say this is that when I look at the other space, which is closely to my heart as well, is agency. When I talk about agencies, agency banking, which maybe can be another different podcast I need to talk about it, is that the agent, or they call them pay point in these places, where they can either do deposits for you for either Mons or Revolt, among other uh, neobanks kind of platforms, or even go cardless and others, where you can deposit and then you're getting charged about £1 for each and every transaction you do, or every deposit. But also, the retailers are also actually taking advantage of that. And what they do in this case is that they charge you an extra pound. I was testing this out in the market, and there's a retailer who charged me an extra pound, and the system also charged me a pound. And with this pound being charged on the side, it's not on the platform, and they will still earn a transaction revenue from Monzo out of that specific kind of transaction. So I found that one, you know, misingenious, if I can call it that way, where people want to steal from non-suspecting, if I can say so, non-suspecting depositors. As I was talking about agency banking as well, what came into my mind while I was thinking it is important that I also mention this is that true traditional banking has not really left the first world countries. Um, People are still walking into the banking halls, making transactions, making deposits, doing those all the checking transactions. But the agency banking in this case, they're not that a lot, but they are few. But they still need to have that proper visibility of these agencies um, in places so that it can be easier for you to be able to see them where they are. But to add on that, they've also made it easier, especially the people using these agencies. From their app, you can easily be able to get a navigation route to those specific agents. And when you get to those agents, you can now be able to transact from those specific agents. Most of them have actually are contracted post offices. Some are actually independent groceries or retail stores who are actually doing these transactions for agency. Can put it agency banking kind of transactions. The other more important thing maybe I can mention when it comes to different of tech in UK and in United Kingdom, London, and Nairobi, Kenya, is that you will see a lot of upcoming interesting ecosystems, which have all been combined into an interesting way of doing things. Another good example is just how the delivery services works. It's much more easy and seamless. This is because even the location of people's houses have actually been mapped as per the expectation from the government, where you have to have a registered address. So it becomes easier for you actually be able to um, get your items delivered at the doorstep, and you pay. Majority of this payment actually happen via card. Some actually being also payment on delivery, and it's also very important that once you do this transaction, you actually tip at the person who actually done the delivery. It's a good gesture. It's not necessarily a must, but it's a good gesture to do that to the person delivering, you know, delivering these items to you. I think for today, I really wanted to capture those few elements that at least next time we can have a better rolling thought in terms of more of a rejoiner of what you have just captured in this episode one of London Fintech versus Nairobi Fintech. Bye bye for now. Thank you.